Thanks for watching Afternoon Live. Whether it's for work, education, or socializing, our lives are online now more than ever. So it's important to know how to protect ourselves and our kids. Here to help, we welcome back futurist and growth scientist Anne Ahola Ward. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's great to see you.
You have some great ideas to kind of safeguard our privacy when we're online, but do we have to kind of think about that word privacy to begin with and what it means in our real life and digitally as well?
Absolutely. I think there's always that temptation because it's easy to share things that does not necessarily mean that we should. And sometimes even just having that hesitation is all that it takes to protect you online.
Sure. What are some things that we should avoid kind of all the time, good rules of thumb for kids and adults?
Absolutely. So I think teaching social media literacy is important because young developing minds don't necessarily understand that things are not what they seem. Somebody offering something that seems like a great deal could really just be a way for them to get you alone or get you to meet with them in person when really that's not what we want to obviously see. So I think it's important to not make friends with anybody you don't know in real life, especially for kids. It's okay to chat with people online if you're an adult, but as a kid, obviously that's very concerning.
That's a great rule of thumb. No new friends on the internet if you don't actually know them in real life to begin with. Well, and this is kind of a challenge, I think, for a lot of parents with students in school. They've got Chromebooks and iPads in the classroom. So how do you kind of balance that and help them foster that media literacy so they can kind of be able to have their own red flags for things that might be kind of dangerous?
Absolutely. A really good way to foster it is to also model it as a parent and to be diligent. But there are some tools available. There are a lot of apps now that, they basically claim that they can do everything for you. I mean, obviously, vigilance is number one. But there's apps like the Bark app. There's also Net Nanny, where they actually use AI tools to try and detect signs of things like cyberbullying or unusual behavior. Net Nanny actually, as an app, tries to model good behavior in screen time, screen balance, which I think is a nice feature. But definitely you want to do your homework and figure out what your concerns are and find the right tool for those specific concerns and check the reviews.
That's a great point. And what about these new devices like voice assistants and other things that are kind of on the surface supposed to make our lives easier, but I think you have to give up sometimes quite a bit of personal information for those things to function in their full form?
Absolutely. I make it a practice to question what any new app I'm using has to have access to, because if it's something I'm using, say, for my car insurance, I don't think I need to grant it access to my address book, my location, my camera. You can actually toggle for each individual app you add to your phone what permission levels you want to give it, because the thing is, you don't have to always give it what it's asking for. You can say no to things, and people don't realize that. They just, cycle through it quickly to get started at whatever they're doing, when really you should take a second and say, does this really need my location? Does this really need my camera, etc.?
That's a great point, and it only takes a few seconds to dive into your settings and give things certain access only to certain things in your world. What about kind of that digital footprint and teaching kids about that even if they're posting something only thinking about today or the next week, that we don't really know the lifespan of that picture or that post that they decided to share, maybe with the whole world if it has no privacy settings on it?
Absolutely. I think that kids, especially with tools like Snapchat and Instagram stories, get lulled into the false sense of, oh, well, this is only live for a certain amount of time. I would definitely assume that anything you put online can and will be traced. It will be kept in a server somewhere. I wouldn't necessarily feel the need to be paranoid, but I wouldn't put anything online you don't want to have be seen by a future employer, a future spouse, a future college, entrance committee. I would definitely practice the rule of thumb. Do I want my grandma to see it? And if you don't post it, because it can absolutely show up. People can screenshot it. And the fail safes that are put into place aren't necessarily going to last forever. So the best rule is to just not go there.
That's true. Everything changes so quickly. And what about parents of younger kids? I've kind of stopped posting as many photos of my kids right now, because I think about their digital footprint 20 years from now. I don't know what the internet is going to look like when they're adults. Should we be kind of having those thoughts and conversations about kind of the wild west of the next generation?
Absolutely. I would assume that we could see, content from social media factor into certain things in the future, like our credit scores, our access to things. There's a sort of, I don't want to get dystopian on you, but I do think that that hesitation is absolutely something you should trust. You should trust your gut instinct. Does this account need to be public? Maybe it should be private. If you want to share photos of young children, I think your friends that you already know can see them if you're private. And so, what's the benefit of being public? Because, you know, the the thing that happens quite a bit, and I've had it happen to my own account being public, is that bots will pick it up and then create clone profiles. So anything that you have out on a public social media profile, you should assume could be getting used for bots, for AI training purposes. And that doesn't mean it's going to go to a use that's going to be nefarious, but it's just something that maybe you want to question for that very reason. You don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, once it's out there, you kind of release that control. Hey, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you so much.
We'll have these tips and more about Anne on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.